sports. It's in the game.
What's up, Madden CFM Maniacs? This is your boy, Mad Scientist 06, EA Sports Game Changer, here to give you the inside scoop on Madden NFL 15 Connected Careers Position Changes. I'm going to cover what changes you can make, when you can make them, and what you need to be on the lookout for. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Many of you will be happy to know that Madden 15 allows you to change more player positions than Madden 25 did. Let's look at the big picture. There are 3 different points where you can make position changes. One is before you actually start the CFM. Basically what you do is modify a roster and then load that custom roster into the CFM. The second point is during preseason through the regular season. During this time, you can make changes, but they are very limited. The third point is during the off-season. The off-season consists of anything after the Super Bowl and before the preseason. There are 9 stages during the off-season. During that time, you re-sign players, hire staff, sign free agents, finish up your scouting, participate in the draft, sign rookies. Well, rookies are automatically signed, but you get the idea. So let me talk about each of the 3 different stages or points where you can make changes. Before you start the CFM, you can modify a roster and then load it into the CFM. The advantages of using this approach is that you can edit almost everything, including player information, name, jersey number, position, college, hometown, state, equipment, styles, as in quarterback styles, ratings, and player traits. However, there are some limitations. You can't edit a player's contract, team, handedness, which means left hand, right hand. Can't do any of that. You can't change the player's birth information, so birthday, year, month, date, those type of things. You can't change height, weight, age, and appearance, and that applies to basically all players. One cool thing you can do, however, is download custom rosters from Madden Share and use those to start your CFM. You may find some pretty good rosters up there, including some classic rosters with legendary players. So let's look at what type of position changes you can make with a normal Madden roster. So looking at this chart, you can see that every single position in a Madden roster can be changed. It's unlimited. Any position, anywhere. Alright, here's some things that you should look out for. Changing player positions will result in OVR only hits. You are limited by the minimum requirements at each position. For example, if you have 2 left tackles, you will not be allowed to change one to a right tackle. The roster just won't even save. You won't save that player's position change. You actually need 2 left tackles for a valid roster. That's the reason. Let's take a look at Calvin Johnson as an example. There are 2 tables here. The top one shows that Calvin's ratings stay the same when changing positions. The only rating that changes actually is OVR. So you see in the top when I changed him from a wide receiver to a running back, and his OVR went from 99 to 88. And even though that changed, all his attributes stayed the same. So speed, acceleration, awareness, everything stayed the same. Now the second table shows his OVR for each of the available positions that he can be changed to. So you can see that the lowest is probably kicker or punter, which makes sense. Then quarterback. Some of his highest OVR is running back, and definitely tight end. There's virtually no change, or no change at all. What this is telling us is that the positions where Calvin has the highest OVR ratings are the ones where he'll probably be the most effective if you decided to make that change. Now back to roster editing for a second. Now you can also complete transactions as you would a normal roster, including releasing players, trading players, signing free agents to teams, and you can also create players. Maybe you feel like the team is missing players that should be added. You can take it upon yourself to create that player, place them on the team yourself, and edit everything about them because they are your creation. Alright, so the goal here is to get the roster exactly like you want it. Once you get it that way, then you can get it into the CFM. So how do you get your custom roster into the CFM? The roster must be loaded into memory. You can't load rosters from within the CFM or select the specific roster you want. The CFM automatically loads the active roster that's currently loaded into memory. So make sure before you start everything, once you finish your roster changes, name the roster, save it, make sure you have the right roster by loading it into memory first, then go through the steps to create the CFM. Let's move on to the second stage, what you can do during the preseason and regular season. Now, during the preseason and regular season, editing is very limited. You can't edit players' faces, you can never do that, or appearances, but you can edit things like player information, including position, jersey number, handedness, and college. Of course, you can also do equipment and QB styles. The position changes you can make are limited to what I call symmetrical positions. I'm sure this is not the correct term, but changes like right tackle to left tackle, right outside linebacker to left outside linebacker, right end to left end, strong safety to free safety, changes like that. Now, one notable change for Madden 15 is that you can't change a kicker to punter or vice versa. I'm not exactly sure why that's the case, but I'm looking into that. So here's a table showing you what you can and what you can't change at this second stage. So let's take a look at that. And it just further illustrates that there are not too many things that you can do, but there is some flexibility, but it's just very limited during the regular season and preseason. Alright, so let's move on to the third stage. This is off-season changes. Now, the off-season in the CFM is where you can make the most changes that are allowed within the CFM. You still can't edit players' name, faces, appearances, and those kind of things. One cool thing to note, however, you can change the positions of rookies that were just drafted because the draft is actually in stage 8 of the off-season, and you still have one additional stage before the preseason to make position changes. So that's really cool. This means you could draft a big, slow wide receiver and convert him to tight end, or a slow 22-pound strong safety and convert him to a linebacker, or a big, slow running back and convert him to a fullback. Those type of things. So knowing that you could change that player is something that you could be thinking about while you're actually doing the draft. Alright, let's check out the new changes to Madden 15 during this third stage. Alright, cool stuff for this year. We can change a wide receiver to tight end, quarterback, and running back, okay? That was one of the things that the community said that they wanted to do last year, because last year we couldn't change a wide receiver to any position at all. So now we even have the ability to change several offensive players to defense and vice versa. Yeah, that's hot. You gotta like that. So you could take a running back and convert him to a cornerback, free safety, or strong safety, or vice versa, which is very cool. Now, if any of this still sounds restrictive once you look at it, there are some workarounds, just like last year. For example, say you want to convert a quarterback to strong safety. Now, it doesn't look like you can do that initially from this chart. However, if you move your quarterback to running back, now he's a running back and the system looks at him as a running back. And what can you do with a running back? You can convert a running back to strong safety. So there are roundabout ways that you can kind of get around what the restrictions are. You just have to go by the chart and use that to dictate what you can do. You can get creative with this. Just look at the changes as one-way moves. And once you get to the new position, you have the ability to move wherever that new position allows. Now, let's talk about some of the cons, okay, because there are limitations, and these are very important. While there are more positions you can change in Madden 15, in some cases your players will take rating hits. This is very important. Pay attention to this. Every time you change a player's position, they could potentially take a hit. So if you change positions multiple times, you can, if you do not pay attention, essentially render that player unusable. Now, this is a worst case scenario. This doesn't always happen, but when it happens, it's not a good thing when it does. Now, the ratings hits were put in place to help prevent abuse, such as someone converting a 99 speed wide receiver to quarterback and then wreaking havoc in the entire CFM. No one wants that to happen. So there are some hits in place designed to mitigate those type of things, but still give you the ability to manage your roster and change positions. So there's a trade-off, and we have to deal with that. So let me drop some mad science here. Madden 15 does not remember what position the player previously had. So when you change positions, it's like a new player. And every time you move a new player, you get a ratings hit. So trust and believe this feature is one that you do not want to experiment with. But that's why I'm here to give you the inside scoop. Alright, so let me give you some examples. We'll look at Calvin Johnson again. You'll see in the top table, when Calvin Johnson is converted to a tight end, he takes a hit on speed, acceleration, and awareness. Now, not every player takes a hit on those same 3 attributes. The attributes affected vary on the type of change you make. So if you're changing an offensive lineman, expect to see a change in run block, pass block, and awareness. That makes sense, right? So in general, I found that the hits affect no more than 3 attributes per position change. Now, in my next video, I'm going to give you some specific details on what attributes are affected by each position. Stay tuned for that. Okay, now back to Calvin for a minute. you can see here that when Calvin is changed to a tight end, he loses 10-point speed. Okay, that's fine. We don't want a 95 speed tight end. Pretty much appropriate. Acceleration, lose a little bit of that. That's fine. And you lose awareness, 23 points. So we're assuming that if Calvin Johnson actually in real life went out and decided he wanted to be a tight end, you would assume that there would be a learning process adapting to the new position, and that would affect his overall awareness. So his awareness dropped 23 points. That sounds reasonable. Now here's an issue. If you start moving Calvin Johnson around just to experiment, to see what he looks like at all the possible positions you can change him to, you may find yourself in a lot of trouble. Now in my example, I changed his position several times and then changed him back to his original position as wide receiver, and the result is what you see in the bottom table. What he finally wound up having is 76 speed, 75 acceleration, and 36 awareness. Now those are some pretty substantial hits. So do not, I repeat, do not experiment with these position changes. Moving players multiple times can do some serious damage. At this point, if I was really in a CFM, Calvin Johnson would be virtually unusable at 76 speed. I would have a heart attack, right? So let's look at another example. Here you can see that when moving a wide receiver to tight end, only 3 attributes are affected: speed, acceleration, and awareness. These combined, of course, lower the player's overall. So the overall change is based on the changes in those 3 attributes. So note that the hits are pretty predictable, but they do vary by player. So this could be due to scheme or due to the initial rating that you start with. Essentially, the lower the rating is initially, the lower the hit is potentially. That's what I'm assuming. So I'm still doing some more tests on that. Now, I have reported all of this to the CFM team. Hopefully, they will be able to address some of the issues. So here's what I'd like to see: the ability to preview rating hits in advance. So if I do want to change a player's position, I'd like to see exactly what the hits are and to what degree before approving the change. Right now, the system is not set up in a way that will allow you to see what the rating hits will be in advance, if any, until you make the change. At that point, you cannot back out or cancel the change. Currently, the game doesn't remember the player's original ratings. So even if you move Calvin Johnson to tight end and then 2 other positions and then come back to wide receiver and you decide that you made a mistake, or this is something that you don't want to do, it doesn't remember what his original ratings were. I am tabulating all of these things in my second video just to help you out, just because I want you to be able to go in and use this feature how it's intended and take advantage of it, enjoy the new changes without worrying too much about what could happen. So stay tuned for my second video in the series where I go into detail about all these rating hits associated with each position. Do me a favor, hit that like button if you appreciate the information. Subscribe to my channel to get more information. It's your boy Mad Scientist. I'm out.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
DJ Digital. DJ Digital.
Check out more videos on my channel. Hit me up on Twitter, YouTube, and Xbox One as Mad Scientist 06. You can also hit me up on PlayStation 4 as Mad Sci 06. Peace.